Ladies and gentlemen, let me give you a little dose of reality.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Real Talk Fins Talk, where I'm your host, Steve Malloy, and we are going to have a good show tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate you all for showing up. Please hit that like button as you're coming in. Whatever platform you might be at, come over here to the YouTube channel and join us over here and talk Miami Dolphins. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. Hit that bell down below. Hit that bell and subscribe and share with your friends, your families, and your neighbors. And remember, we might not always agree everything Miami Dolphins, but there's one thing we can agree on, as we are all Dolphins. And this is where Dolphins come to get a dose of reality. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, it's a good day. It's a good day. It's a good evening here in Houston, Texas. It's going to be a little brisk tonight. It's going to go down into the upper 30s, so that's pretty cold here in this area of the United States here in Texas, in Houston. But I'll survive, I guess. Man, oh man. So are you all surprised the Miami Dolphins beat the New York Jets? Are you all surprised? Well, I'm not surprised that they beat the New York Jets, but what surprises me the most is the way they had to come from behind, come back, go into overtime, and play the New York Jets. We played against a 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers, who a lot of folks have said, "Oh, he's washed up. He's a 41-year-old." The Jets are dysfunction. They fired their coach. They fired the GM. They have an interim head coach. They were missing a couple of folks on the defense and on offense. So are you surprised the way that they played against the Miami Dolphins this past Sunday? I am. Based on all the stuff that I heard, on social media, you know, man, we were supposed to cream these guys. And we just barely won that game. Just barely. Just barely. But we won, and with me, that's all that counts. Okay, is what the scoreboard says at the end of the game. We won the game. That's what counts. And we move on to the next game, which will be the Houston Texans. And I will be attending that game. I will be at that game. So maybe the Dolphins will have a better chance of beating the Texans if I'm there. Maybe. I don't know. But towards the end of the show here, I'll give you my prediction, the game score, what I believe. But I did want to talk a little bit about the New York Jets Miami Dolphins game. I was very surprised. All serious, serious aside, I was definitely surprised that the Jets put up a fight as they did. A lot of folks were throwing in the towel with the Jets, but they put up a fight. You know, and I know a lot of Miami Dolphins fans are heap hawing, hooraying. We beat the Jets. We came from behind. Tua led the drive, and all this with John O. Smith, man, we look at that, man. He was clutch and all this kind of stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, I will continue to say this Miami Dolphins football team has not won a good team yet, has not beat a good team yet. They haven't won one game against a good team. Well, I take that back. If you want to count the Los Angeles Rams, okay, I'll give you that. But at the time that they played them, okay, they weren't that good. They were missing some folks on offense and defense as well, right? They had some injuries. Well, we got some injuries too. I get it. We're missing some folks on defense. But the best thing about that game against the Rams was it was under the lights, Monday Night Football game. We overcame that narrative, right? That we can't beat teams under the lights on a Monday night. So I'm happy about that. But they were the Rams, okay? And they did play well. They played well. I was surprised we beat the Rams. I know at the beginning of the year I had them losing to the Rams, but we won that game. So going back to the Jets game, and I've got to talk about Tua Tagovailoa. I know because he's been the talk of the town, for the last 3-4 weeks since he's come back after his concussion. And I was on a show last night on the Finn's Faithful podcast. Let me get that right. Finn's Faithful podcast with George. And we had a guest on, or he had a guest on, Bobby from the Dive Bar. Perhaps you all have seen the Dive Bar. Very good podcast. He was on there and we were discussing, we did the recap on the Jets game and all that in the upcoming game with the Houston Texans. But Bobby made a good point from the Dive Bar podcast. He made a good point. And he said, ever since Tua Tagovailoa got that concussion and his mindset has been totally different. And it has. And not only has his mindset been different, Mike McDaniel has changed his offense, the face of this offense. I've said this several times the past couple of weeks. This offense is not the same as it was, even at the beginning of the year. Definitely not the first 2 years of his becoming a head coach of the Miami Dolphins. But that was a great point because it's true. After he's had the concussion, he came back, and I know he went up to the podium and even talked about how he felt that he let his team down and all that kind of stuff, and that's great. I'm happy to hear that. So what that's telling me is that, and you can see it in the games. He's making better decisions. He's throwing the ball away if he has to. He's sliding when he's running, sliding out of the pocket a little bit when he has to, trying to avoid the pressure, which he's not getting a lot of pressure, at least not the New York Jets game. He wasn't getting a lot of pressure, but I will say this, and I've been asked this question, and a lot of folks have been asking me, well, have you changed your mind on Tua Tagovailoa? And I've said, no, I still feel the same way. I think he's good enough not to be good enough. I don't think he's the guy that's going to take us to the promised land. He's going to win you 10, 11 games in the regular season. Maybe he wins like the game against the Rams or something like that, has a good game against the Jets, where he was a clutch and came back with John O. Smith, right, towards the end there. So, but how many times has he done that? Not very many. He's not consistent when it comes to that. But this year he has been consistent in getting the ball out and being efficient with the ball. I mean, 70-something% passing percentage. I mean, I get it. They're short passes. They're not even mid-range passes, or long passes. They're short screens and stuff like that. And but hey, he's doing what he has to do, right? He's doing the job. He's doing what the defenses are giving him. Now, against good teams, it didn't play out very well, right? When we played the Packers, it didn't work. And that's what I was afraid of. Why didn't it work? Because number one, we couldn't even get a running game going. We couldn't even get a running game going in the Jets game. We haven't been able to get a running game going in the last 2 or 3 weeks, or 3 or 4 weeks. And I have to say, a lot of that has to do, number one, we don't have power backs. And number two, we don't have power blockers that can guys that can push the pile, physicality up front in the trenches. They're very good, athletic, You know, they've been and I'm not even going to say they were really great at pass blocking. Okay, I know the PFFs and all that kind of stuff says differently. Some of the analytics says differently, right? But if you watch the games and you go back and you watch the film, this line is not really that good. It's average at best. It's average at best. If it wasn't for Tua getting the ball out in 1.8 seconds, sometimes 2 seconds, right? When he gets a little more time, 2.2, 2.3 seconds, the lineman doesn't really have to do a lot as far as pass blocking. But they're showing their colors in the run blocking now. They're showing their colors in the run blocking. Okay? Yeah, DSG labeled. Yes, he's not elite. No, for sure. Definitely not elite. There's maybe one or two or three elite quarterbacks in all of football, right? In the NFL. I would say two is up, probably maybe top 12 to 15. And a lot of folks keep telling me, "Oh, he's playing better this year. Look at him. He's killing it." No, he's the same Tua Tagovailoa that we've seen for the last 5 years. The only difference, the only thing you're seeing differently is the offense has changed. The offense, there's a new look in town with the offense. And he's throwing short passes, getting him out there quick. He doesn't even have to go through progressions at all. Not saying he's not going through progressions, because he has shown this year that he can go through progressions and things like that. You know, but I will say he's playing efficient. He's being a good game manager. He's doing what he has to do, and that's all we really need from him, right? At this point in time. Now, let's see what happens against the Houston Texans. They have a really good defense. Now, we match up good against the Houston Texans statistic-wise. All right, we were evenly matched somewhat on the defense side of the ball and the offense side of the ball. CJ Stroud has gone through kind of well, he's gone through a sophomore slump. So, but then again, look what we said about Aaron Rodgers, and he looked like the Aaron Rodgers of 4 or 5 years ago. So, I can talk about how CJ Stroud has gone into a sophomore slump, and then we could play on against Houston this week, and he could eat us alive, right? But going back to the Jets game, I don't want to get too distracted from that, because there's some things I do want to say and talk about. But yeah, Tua led a good drive in the last few minutes there, got us, and threw that nice touchdown pass to Jonnu Smith. That was a nice pass. He was very efficient again. He's been efficient, as I said, since he's come back. Okay, he's been very efficient, and we got to get that running game going. I don't know how. I don't know how we're going to get the running game going, especially with the game coming up this week. Armstead possibly could be out. AJ is already out. So it's going to be tough, man, going against what's his name, Will Anderson, and the other guy that's next to him on the defense side of the ball. It'd be a good test if Armstead doesn't play this week. It's going to be a good test for Patrick Paul. Now, Patrick Paul came in and filled in for Armstead adequately. He did an adequate job for being a rookie. He held his own. He's a strong, big kid, and he held his own. He didn't do bad at all. This would be a good if Armstead is unable to come back for the remaining of this year. That's a good thing for Patrick Paul, and I want to see it. I'm excited to see what we got in this guy. Okay, we drafted him, right, to replace Armstead. So why not put him in there now? Let him play out the remaining parts of the year. Let's see what we got. Let's see what we got. But yeah, going back to the game, I really can't be that elated. I'm sorry, I just can't. We played against a bad New York Jets dysfunctional team, and we almost lost to that team. We were down 15 to what was it? 15 to 20 something, right? At one point. I was really getting concerned. But we pulled it off. But yeah, our defense has some holes in it, especially at the safety position. Very disappointed in Javon Holland. He hasn't lived up to since his rookie year. He hasn't done. He seemed to decline every year after his rookie year, and he's not. I don't think he's going to be with us again next year. I just don't. I don't think. I don't think Greer's going to. If Greer's still with us, which I think he will be, I don't think he's going to pay him. I think Javon Holland will be gone. I think Calais Campbell, who's been solid for us. But if you notice against the Packers, against the Jets, Calais Campbell has been wearing down. I don't know if you've all noticed that or not. He's wearing down. Okay. So how much more can we get out of Calais Campbell? I don't believe he'll be there next year. Kendall Lamb, who's a good swing tackle, right? And he's playing in place of AJ, right? Not very good when it comes to run blocking at all, and he's okay at pass blocking. But that's not his position, right tackle. Last year, he played left tackle. He was playing well. He was playing really good. I mean, he filled in. He played solid, filling in for Taron Armstead. So, but he's not going to be there, and he will be missed. Okay, because this team is lacking depth, big time. Not only do we have to replace our depth, but we've got to replace those holes on our starters, right? Calais Campbell won't be here. Maybe Jalen Phillips will be back. We don't know how he's going to respond after knee surgery. We thought he was gonna. I said at the beginning of the year, we don't know how he's going to respond when at the beginning of the year when he came back. I thought they probably rushed him a little bit, and as it turns out, he got hurt again. What are we going to get out of him? Bradley Chubb, maybe he I don't know if he's going to even play the rest of this year. Right? But he may not be back next year. The two safeties, right? Poyer. I already mentioned Javon Holland. They probably are not going to be back next year. So, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we need a linebacker. Jordan Brooks is good, but the other guys have filled the role okay, but they've been hurt in and out of the roster. We're going to have to get a good linebacker. Hell, I don't even know if Jordan Brooks will be here next year, to be honest with you. The way this team, the way this team has been playing lately, or this year. And plus, what he said about the team being soft in the interview probably doesn't help his contract negotiations next year to play another year with the Miami Dolphins. So that's the defense. Now for the offense, right? I've already mentioned Taron Armstead. He's probably going to retire. Kendall Lamb. What are we going to do with Eichenberg? Eichenberg is the weakest link of the offensive line, and he's a starter. He should be a backup, for Christ's sakes. So we've got to get two guards. Robert Jones is okay. He's our best probably blocking guard, power blocker. But other than that, we're gonna have to do something about this O-line next year. Is Tyreek gonna be back next year? Well, we know they signed, Tyreek signed an extension. We know Waddle got his money, right? So we'll see. We'll see. Mostert may not be here next year. Wilson probably won't be here next year. So those are folks we've got to replace as well. Tua will be back here next year, but maybe he doesn't have Tyreek. How is he going to operate without Tyreek against good teams? So there's a lot that is riding in the next 3 or 4 games here that we have left, right? We've got Houston, we've got the Browns, and we've got to play the San Francisco, and we got to play the Jets again in their house. The Jets in their house. Now, San Francisco folks will say, well, San Francisco, they're not playing real well this year. Look at their record and all this kind of stuff. What the thing is, guys, they're a good organization. They're a good team. And you got to look at the personnel matchups. What are the personnel matchups? Whether it's a good team or bad team, what are the personnel matchups? A lot of that is going to dictate how we play, right? So we got to look at that. San Francisco is going to play well. They're going to be in our house, but they're going to be San Francisco. Okay, they're a good team. Their record may not state it, but they're a good team. Hey, some would say Miami Dolphins are a good team, but better than their record. Better than their record stands. So you got to put that in consideration, guys. Cleveland, night game in the cold. Cleveland's been playing some good football, man. They've been playing some good football lately. They really have. Who else? Houston, of course. Houston, the next game we're going to be playing, which is next week here in Houston. Now, there's some advantages to playing in Houston for the Miami Dolphins. It's indoors. Not that it would be cold or anything like that. Anyway, if it was outdoors, with the exception of today, it's going to be in the 30s at night, but it warms up to 50s and 60s in the daytime. But yeah, I mean, the advantages are it's indoors. It's on AstroTurf or PolyTurf, whatever you want to call it. So that's gonna make that's gonna help out our speedsters on the Miami Dolphins football team, right? Because that type of football field is, it's fast. The game is fast on that football field, right? If you got some speedsters, yeah, it's going to be to the Miami Dolphins' advantage for sure. And then also we can even say C.J. Stroud hasn't been playing as good as he was last year. Houston hasn't been playing well, as good as they were last year. But they play very well at home. They own their home field. So it's going to be a tough matchup, ladies and gentlemen. And I don't know, man. We just have to take one game at a time. We really do. But this matchup this week, even though I just went over some of the advantage that the Miami Dolphins have and all that kind of stuff, I just unless Miami changes my mind, man, they've got to change my mind because history tells us when we play against good teams, we lose. Change my mind this week, Miami Dolphins. Please change my mind. Some way, somehow, we've got to find that running game too. Because those short passes, as you see, it's not going to work against good defenses. Those short little screens are not going to work. And in fact, I'm not going to say that Mike McDaniel has abandoned the run to a degree. I'm not going to say that, but I hope that he can run a little more, just so we can keep the defenses honest, right? Just so we can keep the defenses honest. Should the Dolphins sign Holland this off season? I just mentioned I wouldn't sign him. Personally, if I was the general manager, I wouldn't sign him. No. Do I think he's going to get signed this offseason? No, I don't think he will. I really don't. I just don't see Greer. History says that he's not going to sign him. I just don't think he is. He hasn't been living up to his hype. He's been declining, every year since his rookie year. So no, I don't see him. I really don't. Coming back next year. Eichenberg sucks. Yeah, he does. Let's see what we got. Doesn't seem possible to place that many guys with quality in a year. Sounds like a good time to rebuild to me. Yeah, and that's why I mentioned, the next 3 or 4 games is going to tell us a lot. It really is. Let's see what our record is at the end of the year, right? If we're like 9-8, 10-7, and we just barely get into the playoffs and lose, or we don't even make the playoffs, but we have a decent record of 10-7, I don't think we're going to see a lot of changes as far as coaching. Now the players I just mentioned, yeah, I think that was going to happen whatever our record was this year or not, if we made the playoffs or not. I think some of those guys probably would have been gone anyway, right? Because Armstead probably going to retire. Kendall Lamb has already said he's going to retire. Poyer, I didn't think we were going to keep him. Remember now, a lot of these folks are on 1-year deals, 1 and 2-year deals with easy outs. So it's just going to be a rotation. That's all. These guys are going to leave, and they're just going to replace them with basically, hopefully, the same caliber of player. But we don't know. They may replace them with someone less of a talent, right? Like, for instance, I'll give you one. Deshaun Elliott. Deshaun Elliott played really, really well last year for us. We let him go. And who did we get? Poyer. Poyer has been terrible this year for us. So we downgraded in that position. May, we didn't even keep May. We released him. See what I'm saying? So Armstead, we know his replacement is going to be Patrick Paul. And again, we've got to wait and let's see how this season plays out. If Armstead's going to come back, if Paul continues to play, then that'd be a good evaluation, for us to see how he turns out at the end of the year. If there's, I think he's going to be a solid left tackle for us. Is he going to be a Terran Armstead? No, probably not. We don't know, but maybe not. So we just have to wait and see on that. Aaron Brewer, I really didn't care for that pickup in the offseason. I thought he was too small to play the position. But he's been playing solid for us. In the center position. Now, when I say solid for us, that doesn't mean solid like some of these other teams that have great offensive lines, right? I'm just looking at it from our perspective of our offensive line. So he's been playing okay for us. Achane, man. Achane has been doing what he can do, right? He's a small running back. He's fast. He has a little power to him. Not, he's good at finding those seams and bursting through there. and bursting through those seams and things like that. He's been doing a lot of finding the holes on his own. I got to give him credit for that. He's been finding the holes for his own. He was working on his route running and receiving um, position, ability all season. He even talked about it. He's working with Tyreek and Waddle and all the receivers and things like that. He's improved immensely in that asset of his game. So I'm happy about that. But he's not a bell cow. He's not a bell cow. I wish we had, and when I say we need a bell cow, I've said we need a bell cow. I know a lot of folks are talking about Derrick Henry. They were talking about, some others that, backs Barkley at one time we were talking about the Dolphins, a few others, right? We don't really need a guy. I mean, we need a guy that has power and runs violently and can get you that extra 1 or 2 yards, even if the blocking isn't good. We let go Chris Brooks. Now, I'm not saying he's an all-star. He was undrafted, right? But you could tell that he had the potential. You could see his violent running style, his power. He's a bigger back than what we have now. And I think he would have fit just fine in this scheme, especially on those 3rd and 1s and 4th downs, 4th and 1s and things like that. 3rd and 2 even. Goal line, red zone, 2-3 yard line. I think he would have been great for that position, for that. But we let him go. Yeah, I don't think this. Well, I would love for Chris Greer to go. Okay, he hasn't. He's been the GM since 2016. So, but 2019 officially he has constructed this roster, right? He was put in charge of the roster. 2000, I would even say 2018 maybe. What have we done in those 4 or 5 years or so? Yeah, we made a couple playoff appearances and we're one and done. And that's what I think this team the team is mediocre. That's all it is. It's going to win you, 10, 11 games, right? Maybe get to the playoffs, slide in there, one and done. See, a lot of Dolphins are happy with that. A lot of Dolphins fans are happy about with that. I'm not. Personally, I'm not. Okay? I'm like Don Shula, right? And I heard this on from Kim Bocamper said when he played for Don Shula every year, okay, beginning of the year, he talked to them and told them, this year, our goal is the Super Bowl. Anything less than a Super Bowl is a failure. Now, that is the kind of mindset, the kind of attitude I want in my coach, in my organization, my GM. That's the kind of mindset I want. And I don't know if you all saw Stephen Ross on the sideline the other day when Miami was playing against the Jets and they were making that big comeback and everything, and Tua was looking efficient and throwing those nice passes and stuff. Ross had a big smile on his face. He had a big old smile on his face. I mean, really? You're smiling like this was the Super Bowl or something against the 3-9 Jets? See, and that's what tells me that he's not going to make any changes after this year. I just don't think he's going to make any change. I don't think Ross is going to make any changes. I think we're going to continue with Ross and McDaniel, whether you like him or not. He's going to be on this team. Signed Tua to the big contract. Now we've got him for the next. And I'm not even talking about his play, just his injury history, the concussions, not even his bodily injuries, right? Just his brain, his concussions. How are you going to move forward with a guy that's possibly going to get another concussion? I said this all last year. Everybody would say, "Oh, you're nuts. You don't know what you're talking about." He went to neurologist. He said he's fine. He won't get another concussion. It's not likely to happen. Look what the frick happened. How did jujitsu help him? There, it was a routine hit. A routine hit, guys. And he had a concussion. He was out for 4 weeks. Now, maybe the NFL's got us under a microscope when it comes to Tua, right? Like he said, he's the poster boy. You don't want to be the poster boy. But unfortunately, when you have 4 or 5 concussions in 2 years or whatever it is, 4, call it 4, of course you're going to be under the microscope. And what's the likelihood of that happening again next year? Very likely. And here we go again with our supposed franchise quarterback, not even talking about his play, right? Just his injury history with the concussions, right? And he won't be available for another 3 or 4 games or more? Or is that what we expect? Is that the standard now for the Miami Dolphins football team? For a quarterback, he's going to be out 4 or 5 games every year? Franchise quarterback that we're paying, we paid $212 million for? Thanks a lot, Chris Greer. Did he really have to pay Tyreek? Did he really have to extend Tyreek? Ramsey? And I haven't even talked about Ramsey. Ramsey looked like a rookie out there against the New York Jets against Wilson. He made a few good plays, but for the most part, Wilson was burning him. Left him in the dust. But he's the highest paid cornerback in football. Now, I don't expect him to have a perfect, game every game. But for Christ's sakes, you were playing against the New York Jets. Now, he did a good job against Wilson last year. But last year, Aaron Rodgers wasn't the quarterback either. I'm happy, Evan. I'm happy. But I've got to, I got to keep it real, man. I've got to give you all a dose of reality because I know what's going to happen. I mean, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, but I just have a feeling, man, that, look, all of us have seen this movie before, right? Come on. Until the Miami Dolphins, change our minds, change my mind, this is how I'm going to be. I'm sorry. I can't be always positive about this team. What is there to be positive about? Tua's playing efficient. We beat the Jets. We're 6-7. Should we be positive about that? We've been in this purgatory for what, 24 years? I'm supposed to be happy? I've been a fan since 1969. I've seen what real football organizations and championship teams look like. And this is not it. So no, I'm not going to be, ecstatic. I'm happy about the win. Sure. We just barely won. In overtime against a 3-9 team. Achan? Except no, I like Achan. I like Achan, man. Is that what you're talking about? That I'm not happy about Achan? I like Achan. I think he's one of the best players on our team. Achane is elite pass catch and mid runner, 1.7 yards per carry. Yeah, I get you, Evan. But here's the deal. Is it all his fault that he's only got 1.7 yards? What can you expect out of a 5'8", 188-pound running back? That's not a power back. He's not a bell cow. He's a player that you use in space, right? Give him 7 or 8 carries a game or whatever. And you gotta have a line for a guy like that. That's small. You've got to have an O line, and we don't have it. We don't have that power blocking O line. We might be able to bully bad teams, but we cannot bully good teams that have good defenses and good coordinators and have teams that are more physical. We just can't. We're not that team. If that line opened a hole, Achane would pick up 5 yards easy. Absolutely. And we see it. We see it all the time where they're just, there's not even a hole there, right? He just slides through, a little crack, and he gets through there with his burst alone. That speed. It's not the power, it's the speed that gets him through that crack, right? That seam. Can you imagine if we had an O-line like the Chiefs or like the Packers? We don't have it, guys. I was never a believer that we didn't have a good O-line. I mean, I was and I wasn't, right? I thought we had a better O-line than what we have, but we don't. It's terrible. And I don't care what PFF says. I just look at with my eyes and I watch the film and I can see these guys getting pushed around and thrown around like rag dolls. Eichenberg on his can a lot of times. Sure, does he make a few good blocks? Of course. But mostly a lot of times he needs help. And that's another thing. A lot of times these defensive lines are only rushing 4, sometimes 3, and we've got 5 linemen or 4 linemen in a running back or a tight end chipping the other guy, helping out another guy. That's not good. It's not good at all. Wilson and Wright. We did use Wilson this last game. We did use Wright. Wright is a one-cut runner. That's it. He's not shifty like Achane. He's not as good as he's good. He can catch, he can receive, but he's not good in space like Achane. He's not. I know this off top, but did you see Joe Burrow house was not broken into while he was in Dallas? Oh, I didn't see that. I think I did hear something like that, but I really didn't look into it. Crazy. Crazy. Yeah, maybe so. Maybe so. Maybe he should have got a few more carries, right? But do you really think he would have made a more of a difference in that game? I don't know. It's hard to say. But and that's another thing I want to talk about too. We become one-dimensional again. Right? We haven't had a running game in about 3 or 4 weeks. And all we're doing is these short screen passes and quick passes. We become one-dimensional again, in a different fashion, of course, but basically one-dimensional. That's why I say we've got to find somehow to get this running game going again, man. You really think we're going to beat, Buffalo The Chiefs? Baltimore? Washington? Well, we don't play Washington. They're in the NFC. But you know what I'm saying. You think we're really going to beat those guys? See, when you watch the games, I'm watching these games, right? And I'm like, man, look at these guys. Our quarterback can't do that. Our O-line can't do that. Our defense can't do that. It's unbelievable. But when we play against bad teams, everybody say, "Oh wow, look at that, man! We creamed them, man! Oh boy, oh yeah, hey, hurrah!" Then we play a good team again, and we're like, "What happened?" It's funny, guys. It's just funny. I gotta laugh, man. I mean, it's not funny, but if I don't laugh, I'd go crazy. Um, 4 plays to go 70 yards and 6 plays and a penalty to get 3 yards. Yeah, that's true, Evan. We are what we are, man. We are what we are. It is what it is. So, guys, I'm happy. I am happy, Evan, that we won. You know, we beat the Jets. We got another game under our belt with a win. We're still 6-7. I'm not happy about that. That could change this week. I want the Miami Dolphins to change my mind this week. If we lose this week, ladies and gentlemen, it's over. It's done. The season's finished. In my opinion, the season is done if we lose this week. I still have a little bit of hope, that we could make the playoffs. Just a tiny little bit. And it's possible. It's possible because the Denver Broncos, they don't have a cushy remaining 3 or 4 games. The Chargers don't as well. So, but we've got to win out. We've got to win out. We cannot lose one more game. We lose one more game, as I said, finito. We're done. It's over with the season for us as far as making the playoffs and things like that. Unless a miracle happens. I mean, a real miracle. But we'll see, man. We'll see, ladies and gentlemen. You know, I can't make any. It's kind of useless talking about, you know, is Greer going to be here next year? Is McDaniel going to be here next year? It's nice. It's cool to talk about, and it's really wishful thinking because I definitely don't believe this team, unless they lose unless they go like 7-10, maybe, you know, they lose the rest of their games. That's the only way that I see them making any changes in the front office. That's the only way that I could see Ross doing that. And then, even then, I have my doubts. You know, I really do. I really do. But we'll see, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just so happy you guys came in tonight. Appreciate you. Please hit that like button if you haven't already. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe. If you subscribe, go ahead and invite your friends, your families, your neighbors. Share this podcast with them. And that's about all I got to say, man. Is I'll be at the game Sunday, and I just want the Dolphins to change my mind. Let me get some predictions from y'all. I'll tell you my prediction. I think the Miami Dolphins will lose this game. 31-17, Houston Texans. What about you all? Y'all have any scores you want to share with me? I'll give you a few minutes to put them in the chat. What do you think the score is going to be, and who do you think is going to win? Evan, you need to save it for Sunday? Okay. How about DSG label? You have a score? You have a score you want to put there in the chat? I gave you all my score, 31-17. Onion sign, onion Z sign says 38-35 Houston in a shootout. Woo! Boy, I'll be at that game. That ought to be exciting if that happens. But you got Houston winning? Okay. I really don't know if it I don't know. It could be a shootout. Yeah, that's a good point. It could be a shootout, man. It really could. Like I said, we're playing on a fast field indoors. There's no elements that are going to affect the game. So yeah, you could be right, man. How about DSG label? You got a score? Got a score for me? And whoever else is in the chat, you want to share that with me? Nobody else? Oh, here we go. DSG label says 28-17 Houston. Okay. Okay. All right. All right, guys. I appreciate y'all joining me tonight. I really, really do. And I'll hopefully next Tuesday. Not sure if I'll have a show Tuesday or Wednesday. It might be on Wednesday next week. But I'll let you guys know some way or another. Usually, if you go into the Fins Talk Sports Network, you can see all the different podcasts that we have, and they'll tell you the show times and stuff like that. More than likely, I think it's going to be on Wednesday, probably around the same time, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. So we'll see what happens, guys. I appreciate you for, again, I keep emphasizing this because I really do mean it. I really do appreciate you guys joining me tonight. And so God bless, guys. And remember, Dolphins #1, baby. Dolphins #1.